We have a massive Pittsburgh Penguins move imminent as a new report has revealed a huge update on the Penguins' plans heading into this year's NHL entry draft and their plan to trade one of the longest tenured players on this team to get what they want in this year's draft. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Penguins Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your Pittsburgh Penguins, be sure to go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and you get to stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins. But Mark, let's get right into it. There's been a massive update to the Pittsburgh Penguins' plans for this year's NHL entry draft, and it includes trading away a player that a lot of people love if you're a Penguins fan, and of course, one of the longest tenured players. And this is from Pierre LeBrun. The Penguins are listening on Bryan Rust, but are in no rush to trade him, if at all. Now, that is from Pierre LeBrun, but we have another report today from Elliot Friedman that he says, I think Pittsburgh has been discussing moving up to the number 9 spot in this year's draft, which I think is actually very interesting that they'd only be moving up a couple spots, and they have back-to-back draft picks as well. We'll get into that in this video, but they've talked about Bryan Rust, which I think is interesting. Bryan Rust, now, again, a lot of people know, you can't actually trade him until, if you look at the contract breakdown, you can't actually trade him until July 1st. That's when his no movement clause, is off the books, and you can actually trade him to whoever. He had a no movement clause until this year, July 1st, and he makes $5 million. But moving up 2 spots is very interesting to me, and we're going to get into the prospects and guys that they could draft later in this video as well. We have a huge update on that. But what are your thoughts on this report?
I mean, looking at it's confusing. If you were moving up, say, from pick 20 all the way up to 12, yes, this is something where you look at and say, moving on from a veteran, which seems like the only team is selling is the Pittsburgh Penguins, would make a little bit of sense, but only moving up a handful of spots, they must be really dead set on someone that they do not think they can get at 12. There's a lot of guys that we're seeing fall down the rankings. Hagens is either going to fall drastically down, or we're going to see the Islanders trade up. There's a lot of guys that are moving up, but that puts a lot of quality guys farther back in. So if the Penguins are dead set on a guy, if they're looking at a player and they know they can get him at this pick, yes, go out to get your guy. But moving on from Bryan Rust, who just had a career year, his value's at an all-time high. I feel like you can get more just for him on his own, and attaching your first-round pick with it does seem confusing, especially when this is a player that Sidney Crosby really likes to play with. And after the season Bryan Rust had, I'm sure he loves playing with Crosby as well. So getting this done, I think it makes sense if you're getting more than just a pick. If you're getting another prospect from the Sabres, if you're going out to make more moves with it. But overall, if Dubas is going into tonight looking at Rust and saying, hey, we're sending you no matter if you want to or not, and you're only coming out with 3 or 4 spots up in the draft, I think this is a colossal disaster, in my opinion, Darius.
Yeah, I don't know if this is such a good move. And it's an interesting one, whether you agree with this or not. And obviously, I think it's a little weird to move up 2 spots to give up Bryan Rust. I honestly do. There would have to be more to this trade, of course. But I think it's very interesting. Bryan Rust can, deny this trade, can veto this trade until July 1st. So there could be a weird thing where, you agree to a trade, you get the 9th overall pick, and then you end up sending Bryan Rust in a separate trade in a few days to the Buffalo Sabres. Or you go to Bryan Rust and go, hey, listen, we're going to trade you to the Buffalo Sabres. Can you please waive now, or you're going to go there Tuesday anyway, right? So there is that type of situation as well, where they just go to Bryan Rust and be like, hey, listen, like you're going to be moved. But I just don't know if it's a good move. He scored 30 goals last year, like you alluded to. He loves playing with Sidney Crosby. I think Sidney Crosby loves playing with him as well. It's the type of player you need. So I think it's an interesting move, that's for sure. And to move up just 2 spots, it's interesting. That is the word I will use. But to move on a little bit, Sportsnet's Sam Constantino, and this is to move into the draft tonight. And, the move to the 9th overall pick or a trade has not happened yet, right? And we're going to have, obviously, all the content here on the channel in terms of what actually happens. But, they do, for sure, we know, have the 11th and the 12th overall pick, thanks to the New York Rangers, who sent them their pick in this year's draft. And Sam Constantino has Jake O'Brien going to the Penguins at number 11 and Victor Eklund at number 12. I wanted to get into some of these players because, it's a very interesting list. Some of these players are fantastic. Like, by the way, I think if you can get Jake O'Brien here, fantastic work. Fantastic work. He had a great year with the Brantford Bulldogs, one of their best players, and he's a draft eligible player. And they had a lot of really old, like not really old, of course it's junior hockey, but they had some overagers on the team. They had some 19-year-olds on the team, and he really, flourished above some of them. He had 98 points in 66 OHL games this year. And of course, you can see on some of the rankings, I mean, from different outlets, prospects, prospect lists, people who cover prospects. He's ranked, 4th in North America. He's ranked 6th, 7th on different lists. And if they can get him at, 11, that is a pretty good steal. I think, again, great year in the OHL.
Yeah, Jake O'Brien's an awesome option. If you can go back-to-back with him and Victor Eklund, and I really want to touch on Eklund in a second, but if you can go back and get two of these guys, you're having a home run. You're bringing in 2 prospects, but Victor Eklund is someone that I've looked into quite a bit. We've seen him ranked into the top 8. He's fallen a bit with guys moving up. Carbonneau just recently moved up. You're seeing a lot of players move up. The San Jose Sharks taking Frondell at number 2 actually played with Eklund, and he said this kid has a cannon. If you read any reports from Eklund, his coach goes to say he's a junkyard dog. He does everything in the corners. A lot of people look at European players and say, hey, they don't want to be physical, but Eklund has been showing that he will do anything to win a puck battle and then score a goal or set someone up. His performance in the SHL was incredible. I think his value is a lot lower than a lot of people. And listen, I'm not a scout, but overall, looking at his maturity, how much his teammates, how much his coach, and they're going to hype him up regardless. But everything Eklund has done overseas is going to translate. And if he turns into his brother, who is playing with the San Jose Sharks, you are getting a hell of a player at this pick. So if you're going to trade up, I think at the end of the day, one of these guys are still going to be picked at either 11 or 12, whatever one the Penguins don't move on from.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, if he turns into, a player like his brother and William Eklund, who's playing for the San Jose Sharks, he's having a fantastic NHL career so far. And as you can see here, he has a high-end, down-low playmaking, blending in with the pace and physical skills, like you alluded to, very underrated physically, which I think that the Pittsburgh Penguins could use a little bit more of, mixed in with the skill and the speed, of course. Beautiful snipes, great shot, all of those things that you mentioned. So that's something that I think, if you're going to hit on both of these guys, 11 and 12, you're still in a really good spot. Maybe they want somebody at the number 9 spot, somebody that we don't know, right? Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting look if they do trade Brian Rust for that, but you're getting some really good players here at 11 and 12. And, Jake O'Brien on comparing himself to Wyatt Johnson, who's a fantastic young player in the league as well. And he said just the way he knows the game, his smarts and his hockey IQ, he's deceptive around the net and how he scores his goals. And you can see that in Jake O'Brien's game in the OHL as well. So that's a good thing to have because, I said if you a lot of guys have skills and all the tools, but if you don't have that high hockey IQ, it's hard to win in the league. So if you got a guy like this with high hockey IQ who can put the puck in the back of the net and put a bunch of points up on the board, mixed with another high-end, skilled player in Eklund as well, you're going to be okay. And, we're going to have you covered for everything to do with the NHL Draft and the Pittsburgh Penguins on the channel after they make their selections. We don't know how many selections they're going to have. Things could get pretty crazy, but we're going to have you covered here on the channel. So let us know how you think and feel in the comments about all of this going on. Brian Rust, it's very interesting. I know that's going to tug on the heartstrings a little bit of Penguins fans. So let us know how you feel. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins.